Welcome to this video on 3 different ways to impress a hiring manager during a product management interview. These different tips are going to help you stand out and beat the competition. By the way, my name is Anthony and I'm the founder of Product Career List. All right, so let's dive into these different ways. So the number one way is doing a lot of company research. So there's 12 different vectors I have listed here, but the reason you're going to want to do this is because you want to know what you're getting into. You want to be able to speak in an educated way about the company that you're interviewing with. So there's a bunch here. So number one, the mission. What is really driving them? What is their end state? What are they trying to achieve? Their values. What do they really value as a company in terms of their culture, their product, their work, their origin story? How did they get started? Like, what has their evolution been since the beginning? Especially if they're a later stage company, you really want to understand, like, where did they start from and then where are they now? The product. This is obviously super important for a product manager. So you're going to want to understand, what is their product? What do they offer? What are the services that can happen? What does the product accomplish? User types and attributes. Typically, many products have multiple user groups or user types. So Uber, for example, would have the people ordering Ubers and the people driving the Ubers. Uber Eats is going to have the people ordering food, the couriers, and the restaurants. So you always want to understand the users and different attributes about them. The next is competition. So everyone has a competitor. All these big companies have typically multiple competitors. So who are they? How does this company compare to the competitors? Risks. What are some potential risks associated with the company's strategy, their industry, stuff like that? Recent launches, trying to understand, okay, what have they recently launched in the product? What is some of the innovation that's been happening recently at the company? These are things that product managers are going to be excited about continuing to build on top of. Strategy. Generally, what is their strategy? How are they going to win? What markets are they going to get into? How are they trying to grow? Knowing different aspects of the strategy is going to help you in these interviews. Funding and investment. This is always important to understand, like, where is a company in their overall journey to growing? Are they early stage? Are they mid stage, late stage? What has their funding looked like? Partnerships. Have they partnered with other companies or other platforms? This is going to help you understand how integrated they are into other ecosystems. And finally, customer feedback. This is a big one as well. So how are customers and users of the product actually feeling about the product? Do they love it? Do they hate it? Are there certain aspects of it that they think can be improved? The reason this is so important is when you're in those final round interviews, there are sometimes very few things to actually weigh candidates against one another for. And so if you're doing your research and coming off as educated, you know your stuff, you're really passionate about the company, you might have that competitive edge. So instead of doing all of this research yourself, what I recommend is using a feature that I just launched on Product Career List. So I wanted to quickly demo that here for you to show you how you could go about doing this. So let's say that we found this principal product manager role at ZocDoc. So what I'll do is I'll go to Product Career List, I'll go to the Job Center, I'll add a new one. So we're going to go ahead and add ZocDoc and Principal Product Manager. I'll also just link to the job posting here and add the job. So then the next thing I'm going to do is copy and paste their job description. So this is going to help me in a lot of ways down the line in Product Career List once you're accessing different features. The other big aspect of adding the job description is just so that you can reference it later on, because companies will oftentimes take down this job posting and then you might not always remember exactly what was within it. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to company research. And as you see on the left-hand side here, there's all those vectors that I was talking about: the mission, the values, origin story, product, etc. So what I can do here is I can just click to start the research. And maybe I'll start with the competition because I want to understand the competition, or the user types and attributes. So what I'm going to do is just start researching all these different vectors. And now what it's doing is it's taking its time to go explore and find out different information about ZocDoc from these different angles. The next thing I'm going to do is just jump over to the second tip I have, which is asking memorable questions. I'm going to tie this all together. So number one, it's the last impression they have of you before they go into writing the scorecard and grading your evaluation. So you want them to be really strong, really unique, and memorable. Next, it'll show you're passionate for the role. You've done your research, you're asking these questions that are sparking different ideas in the interviewer, and it's just showing you're really excited about this. Next is you have a curiosity mindset. If you ask really good questions, the hiring manager or the interviewer will know that you are really curious generally as a person. You want to find things out, and that's a really strong skill for a product manager. And then finally, you actually care. You're not just taking this interview to take it, you actually want this role. So what makes a good question? So number one is not being generic or a cookie cutter question like how many people are on the product team or what does a typical day look like? These are very, very basic questions that aren't really going to give you a lot of signal, and they're not going to impress the interviewer or be memorable. So you're going to want to make them unique and customized. Next, you want to personalize it to the interviewer. So who is the interviewer? Is this a technical interview and you're talking to either an engineer or a technical PM? Is it an analytics interview and you're talking to a data analyst? You're going to want to make your questions relevant to that person. Next, relevant to the role. So there's so many different product roles within a company. You're going to want to ask questions that actually relate to the role that you're in the job application process for. So I'm going to go back to Product Career List, and it's now finished doing some of that research. So as you see here, under risks, there's a couple that it's sharing. So there's some financial challenges, there's some billing and revenue model issues. If we go to user types, it's telling us information about the age of the users of ZocDoc, their income, need-based segments, and breaking that down into different types of people who might be using ZocDoc. Under competition, it automatically researched several of their different competitors. And the cool thing is it links out to different sources for all of this information. So what I recommend is doing this research. And then when it comes time to coming up with these memorable questions, what you'll do is you'll go over to the interviews tab. So you'll add a new interview, and let's say that you've already passed the recruiter screen. Let's say that you're doing the Product Sense interview, and it's for the 21st of January. So you add that interview, and the other thing that it did in the background was it found a bunch of product managers at ZocDoc. These are product managers that you can network with, and it automatically pulled in their work emails. So maybe you have an interview with one of these contacts already, so you could select that. But let's say that you don't, your interview is with someone else. So let's say that the recruiter tells you that the interviewer is Hank. So you'll go here. You'll enter the information, you'll enter their LinkedIn profile, you'll add that interviewer. And what it again will do is it'll work in the background to try and find their email. And this could be helpful just so that you can potentially send a thank you note after. The next thing I'm going to do is click Generate Question. So what it's going to do is automatically start working in the background, taking into account the job description, this specific interview, and come up with different questions that you could ask. So this one, ZocDoc's marketplace model aims to empower patients by improving their access to providers. Considering the unique challenges in the industry like regulatory constraints and different provider capabilities, how does ZocDoc balance the needs for rapid development with ensuring the features cater effectively to both patient and provider needs? So this is a quite custom and interesting question that you might ask. What you can then do is write in your response of the interviewer into these notes. So they may say, we do this by XYZ. So during the interview, you might be taking notes. You'll save that question. That way you can reference it later and then easily come up with a thank you note at the end, referencing the specific thing they said. Let's try another one. So maybe we are doing a technical interview. So let's say it's for the 22nd. We add this interview. Let's say this one was with someone that we already had in saved. So we're going to add that in there, and then we're going to go ahead and generate more questions. So now this is a technical interview. So again, as I mentioned here, you're going to want to make them personalized to the interviewer. So let's see what it did here. So what are the most significant technical challenges your team has faced integrating data analytics tools to enhance user personalization across ZocDoc? So it comes up with 3 questions. If you don't like them, you can always generate more. But at the baseline, what it does is it gives you inspiration for what you could ask in all these interviews. And it allows you to just keep everything organized. So between company research and evaluating all these different vectors, coming up with questions, finding contacts at the company, this hub is going to give you a great space to do everything that you need to do. You could also customize your resume here, and it will actually take the job description and customize your bullets for you. So there's a lot that can happen all within the Job Hub on Product Career List to really help you when it comes to 1, doing company research, and then 2, coming up with these memorable questions. Finally, the third piece of advice I have here to stand out to your interviewer and the hiring manager is to always tie your background to the role that you're applying to in your answers. So you may have done a ton of different things in your career, but you're interviewing for a specific job at a tech company. These product manager roles are very focused on a specific function versus engineers, where engineers can jump into any type of team really and be effective. Product managers are focused on one specific area. And so what I recommend here is when you're coming up with answers to questions, always think, okay, what story in my past experiences ties to this role specifically that I can share right now? Because that's going to instill a lot more confidence in your interviewer that you are the right candidate for this job. You may have good stories about past experiences, but if they're completely unrelated to the role that you're interviewing for, and then another candidate has really good stories as well, but they're relevant to the role, that's going to help that person stand out against you. So think about this when you're going into these interviews and preparing. Really read the job description, do this research, look at the questions that Product Career List is coming up with to really see where should you focus in on when it comes time to doing those interviews. So hopefully this helps you understand a couple different ways to impress your hiring manager in the interviews. Again, try out Product Career List to do a lot of this for you. Doing this research manually would take a really, really long time, but it is so important to do before your interview. So check out the link in the description below and let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for watching.